Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my show Camera Tuesday. In today's episode we're going to talk about why no to Nikon. So let's dive right into it. Well, first you have to understand why the heck I'm making this no to every damn company. Well, there is no one answer to every question. You have to figure out your tools. Basically, you have to know which battle to fight. So for that reason, I'm making this bringing down closer to ground kind of videos where you're like, okay, no company is perfect. You have to fine tune it. Like, oh, my foot is size 6. There is no point buying a shoe that is size 10. So in that way, let's go along. So the Nikon, well, it's the great system. Like flat out, it's a very great camera system. It's 100 years old, like more than that. It started in July 1970. Now again, in the early years they used to make optics for military, but you get the idea. Like they're old. They have been around the block for long enough. Now in the lens mount that you are familiar with Nikon, their basically DSLR mount, the F mount was created in 1959. So yes, it's a very old mount, and here's the deal: you can literally buy 1960s and 1959 lenses and put it in D850, and they will work. Flat out, they will work. So that's the magic of backwards compatibility. And they hesitated a bit to get into digital system, and they introduced a digital camera in 1999. However, it was APS-C, not full frame. But in 2007 they introduced a full frame basically DSLR. So that was their first foray and in 2008 they released a very good camera. Now here's the problem with that. Again, in other slides it will make more sense. It was a bit behind schedule. And they introduced digital, they introduced their lens mount. They have been around for 100 years, and they did displays basically Leica. Now Leica, right now when I say Leica, you think of, oh, luxury brand, oh, it's like something only few people buy. It's not something that you will see sides of a on the side of a Olympic or a cricket match or football match or FIFA. You will not see cameras like that Leica anywhere on this kind of places, but it was like that. So Leica was like that. It was that huge. They were selling at one point in time. They were like, you put basically Nikon and Canon together. They're like, bro, hold my beer. This was that. They were that big and huge. But Nikon displaced them. So Nikon did the unthinkable. Basically, they displaced Nikon, basically Leica, and they have lot of great achievements in their belt. Basically, they've been to space, and when I mean space, I don't mean like these cameras. Okay, these are right now available in International Space Station. You can see the video down below. Is that their film cameras also went into the Apollo programs, and back in the days they had to special lubricated, basically make a camera that had good lubrication properties and all that jazz. So they've been there, and they have been verified by NASA. So that again adds credibility. Now, many reason for that why NASA is favoring Nikon instead of Canon is, again, I could not find an absolute truth, but the reality, the best I can guess is basically Canon use a fluoride lens. Now, fluoride lenses are better optically, but they are far more fragile. Basically, they are much more likely to shatter and turn to dust. So and because rocket launchers are again violent by inherent design, and basically NASA is like, no, we cannot have something that is that fragile. So Nikon is cleared for ISS right now. As of now, only Nikon cameras are available in ISS. And in terms of sports, they displaced Leica in the same way how Sony is displacing these companies right now. They did the unthinkable, and they have serious support from sports community and Nat Geo. Many National Geographic photograph like this Afghan girls, and many photos that I will, if I show you those photos, you're like, oh, I know this photo, I have seen this photo. Most of them are taken from Nikon. So Nikon has a great legacy and great achievement. It's not like they went high, they went really high up. So they have some serious accomplishment under their belt. You cannot dismiss them. So what happened to this giant that displaced basically Leica? What happened to them? Well, they got displaced by Canon. Same way they displaced Leica, Canon displaced them. So how the heck happened? Now here's the deal. This happened very slowly. This was what we call slow takeover. It was not boom. It was not how Sony displaced basically full frame sales in 2018 and 2019. It was not bam, no Nikon and Canon sell and only Sony's are selling. It's not like that. It was very slow. Over time it happened, because you have to understand and those era, in 1960s and 1970s, Canon was a tiny company, relatively tiny, and Nikon at that point, they had reached their peak. So Canon killed them very slowly over time. So what did Canon do? Well, Canon took a very big gamble. They threw away their old compatibility. They're like, let's scratch this all thing up. Let's build a new mount. Their EOS series, basically their EF mount. Now, why that was so revolutionary? Again, they simply said, do this, let's throw this all away, and they went into a lens design where there was no mechanical connection between basically lens and camera. Now Nikon still does that. Now what does that mean? Basically that means there was a lens motor, instead of being in the lens, it was in your camera. So basically all you had a shaft, and the shaft had to be rotated by the camera in order to focus. Now again, it worked for that time, but it was inherently slow because you had only one motor, and each camera would have different, basically each lens will have different requirement. A telephoto lens would need a different kind of motor versus the ultra wide. But in case of Nikon, they were stuck with one motor. They can design the lens however they want, but they were limited. Like they can't have a shaft like 10 meters, like literally lenses are like measured in meters now, telephoto ones. They can't have something that is that far, in terms of basically their aperture. This you can see in their model lens also. Their aperture is still mechanically coupled to the camera. Like you have to have a lever, and that lever has to be physically moved by the camera. So, and that is why when Sony introduce their basically mirrorless system, a lot of people are putting Canon lens into Sony system because it was electrically coupled. So software you can fix the autofocusing issue, but in case of Nikon there was a physical motor you have to put in the adapter where you can move the lever in order to actuate the aperture. So Canon threw all that away, like in as early as 1962, basically something like that. They're like, okay, let's throw all this away and make it 100% electrical lens, and that blew up. Basically that exploded. Basically over time, their lenses, even though Nikon had better autofocus system, they Canon was much more faster, and their lenses were far more fine-tuned, and just slowly replaced them. Like before this mount, like there was Nikon, some Canon, and after this it was like Canon, and some Nikon. So that mount happened. Now I told you, like basically Nikon was a bit slow to the game in terms of full frame mirrorless I'm saying full frame DSLR. They did came out and they released a camera that had full quote unquote HD, basically 720p video and like full frame. That was a big deal. Yes, deal. Just few months later, 5D Mark II was released. Now why that's important? That's a full HD and full frame, flat out. For that is the core reason why everybody thinks Canon is the one that introduced video to DSLR. Again, practically Nikon did, but again Nikon was crippled. 720p and full HD was needed at that time. So this changed the whole basically market share. So over time they lost the market grip. Now why does that important? Well, till this point, basically as early as 2008 and 9, most of Nikon's income is coming from their photo division. Now in this time they finally realized their ship is doomed, so they started to create multiple portfolios. Basically they went into industrial optics, basically making encoders for robots, a lot of profit there. Made into medical equipments, lot of profit there. And the camera became a small division in Nikon itself. And that solely happened because you can see, like, this is Beijing 2008, and all this, like all of them are like basically Canon lenses, like all of them. Like right now you go to FIFA, there is a very good chance you will see like 10 12 Canon and 1 or 2 Nikons, flat out. Heck, you will see, there is a very serious chance you will see more Sony than Nikons. So that is a very big loss to Nikon. Basically over time they lost their grip and they never recovered because they never re-engineered their mount. And not to mention they were very slow. There was like Canon was always one step ahead. So over time the market share loss was very serious. You may not think it is a big deal, but because right now if you go to upcoming Olympics, Nikon still has a booth. Nikon will still stockpile a lot of lenses, and there are enough photographers that use it. But again, compared to share wise, it's tiny, it's minuscule. And all this, for some reason, for a company that is 100 years old, they made one bad decision after one bad decision after another bad decision. Basically, flat out, they could not get a break because as early as 2005 and all that, most of their income, profit-wise, not in terms of like, oh, we put 1 billion here, we got like 2 billion out there. Like, oh, we put 100 million, we got 700 million. Like in terms of profitability, the most of the profits were coming from Coolpix lineup. Now, Coolpix was very profitable, but it was short-lived. Like flat out, it did not even reach 20-30 years properly. So you will like, it doesn't Nikon makes Coolpix right now? Yeah, absolutely they do. It's just not profitable. It's like, yeah, we are selling you, but we are selling you it in a very loss or very tiny profit. So flat out Coolpix was like a short-term saving grace. That's the reason that Nikon was not completely killed from the market, like the basically the camera division, because Nikon, realizing the severity of market crash that happened after 2010 for camera division, every single camera company started to die after 2010. The market sales like before 2010, digital camera. After 2010, everything died. So during that time, Nikon tried to reinvigorate, survive again. So they created multiple bad decisions. Basically, they created Nikon 1-inch mirrorless system. This was in the hype of micro four third, and they created 1-inch system. To this day, nobody can understand why the heck Nikon created this, because again, this was like, if Canon has a triple hammer, this has like a triple stormbreaker. Basically, why the heck they crippled it so much? Like, they could have used APS-C sensor. They had it. They had APS-C lens lineup. They could have easily used APS-C. They were mass producing it already. They did not. They could have gone to micro four third. Again, there are already lens manufacturers out there. They could have used micro four third. No, they went even lower, and they went to 1-inch. Why? Because at that time Sony released RX 100, and that reinvigorated the market, because Sony RX 100 was not only like successful, it literally made Sony profit. It was like, whoa, how the heck a point and shoot is making profit? Because again, it was like a quote unquote DSLR level power in the palm of your hand. So Nikon wanted to utilize that success. They failed. My brother had this camera, like actual Nikon series camera, and it was so damn bad. Like, it has 4K video at 15 frames per second. I'm not even joking. Like, literally. And right now, as of making this video, I checked the Nikon site. These cameras are not even available anymore. In mirrorless, they used to be there, but now it's like replaced by Z series. In archive, you have to find these cameras. So this is a whole product line that Nikon developed. They made the cameras, they made the lens, they made the whole new mount system. All of that failed. So a lot of money dumped. Then because Sony RX 100 was so successful, and Panasonic also made a quote unquote cheaper version of basically RX 100 Z100, that was also successful because those both were 1-inch sensor. So Nikon was like, okay, let's make a point and shoot that is 1-inch, that is like suitable for light photography and some serious work. They created the DL lineup. They took money for this. Basically, people were paying money for this as a pre-order and all that, and they cancelled it. This whole product line was built, actually developed, tested, and then they realized it was nowhere good enough as Panasonic or Sony, so they killed it flat out. Second product lineup down. Now during this time, I specified, like, people already started to predict, because mobiles are becoming so good, that this will go down. But this time GoPro comes into the market, and action camera becomes a big deal. So they are like, hey, let's cash into that. They created key mission lineup. If you haven't seen this, I would not be surprised, because very few of them were sold, and see, they killed it very quickly. So you can understand, 3 product lineups were created. 1-inch interchangeable mirrorless system, flopped. 1-inch point and shoot, flopped. Action camera division, flopped. 3 lineups. It's not like, okay, these 3 models did not sell well. These are product lineups. Like, the amount of money they lost is enormous in this regard. And why the heck it's happening, keep happening. Like, 1 time I can understand, 2 times, okay, 3 times. Why the hell this is happening? Simply because they are very, very slow. For some reason, they take like when this GoPro hype was starting around 2005 to 2008, they did not jump in then. Once the market already reached the maximum saturation, then they started the development of basically key mission. Again, development takes time. Bigger the company, the more slower your development would be. So by the time they actually released the product, it was already outdated. So they are very slow to react, and they are very slow in terms of update. The sole reason I have a Canon camera versus a Nikon camera is nothing to do with image performance, because flat out in APS-C, Nikon has bit better performance. Why? Because Nikon is using 1.5x crop rather than 1.6. So Nikon has like better ISO performance. And flat out, if I show double blind testing, most times people will prefer Nikon images. Nikon has a bit more pleasing color and all that jazz. Then why the heck I chose Canon? One simple reason. The moment they showed me the back of the camera, and I saw the live view preview, flat out, I'm like, I'm not touching Nikon. It's like, why the heck Nikon does not show me the live feedback, what is happening in live view? I mean, like, live view is in the name. I should not require, like, okay, what will happen if I go to 200 ISO? Show me in the live view. They did not. I'm like, flat out. So that is the reason why I bought Canon. So you have to understand, they did not make one bad decision. Decision after decision, they suffered seriously. Like, this did not hurt their economy, they destroyed it. So what will happen in the future? Well, first you have to understand, Nikon will survive. The name, the brand, the stock, they will survive. But Nikon's camera division, the public camera division that you and I use, that is in very serious danger right now. Flat out, as in Q3 of basically interview for company support and all that jazz. The Nikon Corporation division was like, the imaging division has to justify its own existence, because they were not making money. And not only that, they were sinking money. It's not like, okay, we put 100 million there, they were like 101 million. Again, because you can put 100 million in a bank and make more money than that. But okay, if they were making little bit profit, okay, understand. But flat out, they are losing money. And all these 3 products fail, product fail lineup. Again, that hurted. And they're in running red. The Nikon camera division, not the Nikon optical encoder division, that's printing money. Nikon's medical equipment, that's printing money. Nikon's semiconductor industry, that's printing money. But Nikon's imaging division, that's in red. Like right now, if you go to Nikon statement, they're like, oh, this thing what we do, and in the small corner there will be like condition applied, we also do camera. So all hopes were directly focused on Z mount. Z mount had to be like, a smashing hit in order to survive, but they crippled this also. And this is the one time where like Nikon intentionally crippled it. It was not like they could not do something better, they crippled it intentionally. Like for instance, at this point in time, Nikon's D800 series is very successful, very popular. Again, when I mean successful, I mean okay, at least that model is selling well, people are happy with it, people are buying it, but again, not enough to like justify their whole debacle with their 1-inch lineup. Again, it was selling, so they crippled this camera out of the gate, flat out. Nikon is such an old company that they know how to make battery grips into a vertical grip. The battery grip just has battery. Vertical grip have control schemes in there, from shutter release to aperture control to ISO, basically knobs and dials, basically control system. So we call them vertical grips. These puppy does not come with vertical grips. Nikon is the only company that I have found so far that in their full frame lineup, DSLR lineup, have a ability to connect 3 batteries. 2 batteries in the vertical grip and 1 battery in the chamber, because same way basically Fuji does that. That's awesome. Fuji does that in mirrorless. That's awesome. They could have done this with this, but they did not, because they had to cripple it. Why they had to cripple it? Because at that time they were thinking D850, let it be out, like once we are done with DSLR lineup, then we'll make this into a pro system. That was a bad move, flat out. In this basically Q3 and 4 development, there was like very simple reality. They are not selling enough. They are selling, but they're not selling enough. Not enough to justify Nikon's itself. So there's, because they crippled it. They crippled the battery system. They crippled the memory system. They could have easily had 2 XQDs. They did not. Again, they were crippling themselves. So it was like a company that was like, hey, my 3G model is selling too much, let's cripple the 4G model. So once we are run out of the stock of 3G model, then we'll turbocharge this. Again, people lose faith at that point. So many people who were like holding to like, I'm not gonna switch system, and once they saw like what these cameras are, they're like, yeah, I'm out bro. I'm out, like flat out, I'm out. They could have done like basically side hinge and all that jazz. They did not do that. They could have dual card slot, which is necessary. D800 has that. They know that it's a necessary feature. They removed it. I'm like, it's not even like they do not know how to do dual XQD. They have dual XQD in D5. There is an option, you can buy CFast or dual XQD. So again, they know how to do it. They just did not do it. Let's cripple this. And I'm like, you're crippling yourself, nothing else, because many people are flat out selling. Once they saw how crippled these cameras, they're like, yeah, I'm jumping to Sony, I'm done. And people used to say Sony G Master lenses are expensive. Sony's G Master lens in India, 24 to 70 millimeter f2.8 is 1,50,000. Pay attention to that number, 1,50,000. This puppy, 1,90,000. Sony G Master is now cheap, and not to mention because Sony knew that they had to fight against 2 giants like Canon and Nikon. They realized a very clever system. They made their lens mount quote unquote open. Benefit: Tamron and Sigma can natively develop the glass. Again, they will not have like complete clear autonomy, but they can develop it natively. Nikon never did that, and Canon never did that, because they were making most of the profits from lens sale, not camera sale. So I can understand why they did not do that. But again, if their lenses are this expensive, people will be like, yeah, what's the point? And then they release Z50, and I'm like, I'm done. Like flat out, this was a bad decision. Z50 was a bad decision. The sensor does not have IBIS. Why does that matter too much? Well, because Z mount lenses do not have optical image stabilization. Not even one Z mount has like, oh, optical image stabilization. Meaning you use this, you will get poor, basically ugly images. Even DSLR knows this. Like there is a reason why optical image stabilization is standard after 2000. Like it's something that you must have in order to utilize your equipment to your maximum potential. They removed that. So now, right now, the only way to have image stabilization is by basically DSLR lenses. And who came up the design with this? Like the mirror folds down. Like seriously, you like, isn't this the same company that made D5200, D5300, D5400? It's like they know just fold it on the side. So they have to end their DSLR lineup. Again, the sales of these are not promising, and that creates a feedback loop because again, not enough people bought it, so they're like, should we invest into this or not? They have to kill their DSLR lineup because DSLR is last generation 3G. 4G will replace it over time. Not again, it won't happen like in one day. It will happen over time. But again, it's gone. DSLR days are numbered. So any DSLR they have to sell it in a discount. Again, they will still make profit because it's better to sell more than make sure everybody Tom, Dick, and Harry switches to Sony. So in the future, Nikon will survive. Their camera division, not so certain, because these, if they were not crippled from the day one, even with poor autofocus performance, people would have given them a second chance. Because again, firmware can fix your autofocus, but firmware can't magically give you data redundancy or vertical grip and or flip out screen in this. So again, I am not very certain with Nikon's future. So this was my presentation on Nikon, why I say no to Nikon. I hope you liked it, learn from it. In that case, please click the like button. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I'd urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me your extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching. Oh, and share it amongst your friends if you liked it.